This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and the white Morpheus will show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Welcome to Blackstone Intelligence with your host, Jake Morphonios.
Well, thank you very much, Katie Clark, for that very kind introduction. And welcome to each member out there of Team Blackstone, tuning in wherever you are among the many, many listeners around the world who tune in to the Blackstone Intelligence Report on Spreaker, Spotify, iTunes, or any number of the other hosting sites that carry the Blackstone podcast. Or maybe you're watching on YouTube or Facebook or some other social media site somewhere around the world. Thank you very much. And, I'll even say thanks. If you happen to be one of those obnoxious FBI surveillance goons that likes to monitor my communications from the comfortable air-conditioned offices in Spooksville, D.C., I welcome you as well, my friends. Thank you for joining in to the Blackstone Intelligence Report. I'm your host with the most, Jake Morphonios. Today is Thursday, July 2nd, 2020. Katie, you know why today is such a good day? I'll tell you. It's because today the FBI has finally done something that I can approve of, and it's put a smile on my face. Because bright and early this morning, about 8:30 this morning, the FBI drove up a half-mile driveway up to this 4,300 square foot timber frame house that's up there nestled in the middle of a 156 acre property. It's a bunch of private land up there in New Hampshire. And the mysterious owner, here's the knock. And this owner, by the way, this is someone who used an LLC, a limited liability company, to buy this property last year. Did it anonymously, dropped a great big fat $1.1 million cash in the process to make it happen. Well, it happens to be none other than our favorite British socialite. No, I'm not talking about Meghan Markle. Let me give you a clue, Katie. British socialite, right? / Israeli intelligence handler / serial child rapist. Does that help out? I figured it would. That's right. The woman who was put in handcuffs this morning by the FBI, not that she minds the handcuff thing. She's one sick puppy. But this is our good friend, Miss Ghislaine Maxwell. And I'm telling you, this woman, speaking of the handcuffs, this is a vicious sex fiend. She has put young girls in the hospital. I've looked at some of the records. And by the way, folks, that reminds me, I had to go ahead and give you a trigger warning up front. And I'm serious about this. We're going to be deep diving into a little bit of Ghislaine Maxwell's and Jeff Epstein's sex crimes today in this program. So if this is a topic that is not your cup of tea, or if this is a subject that maybe perhaps would bring up some difficult emotions for you based on your own experiences, may cause some things to bubble up to the surface that you'd rather not deal with right now, I just want to let you know some of this stuff is pretty ugly. Fair warning. So as it turns out, at least according to the head of the FBI's New York office, a gentleman named William F. Sweeney Jr., they've been keeping tabs on Maxwell for some time now, while the feds have been working on, they've been working kind of in tandem with the DA's office in the Southern District of New York to try and gather enough evidence that they can put together a strong case, ironclad case against Jeff Epstein's madam And old Sweeney Todd said that they had learned that she just recently moved up to the property in New Hampshire from where she had been staying. She had been hiding out previously in Paris, France, for a while. Now, Sweeney didn't mention the New Hampshire property address, but I've already looked it up. No, I'm not going to dox Maxwell because the address hasn't been made public yet. I don't want to get in trouble and all that. But just a few hours ago, Maxwell appeared virtually. She had a virtual hearing, all the COVID stuff. Had a hearing with a federal magistrate, and in that hearing, she waived her right to have her detention hearing there in New Hampshire. She wanted it moved to New York. So that's what they're in the process of doing, is transferring her hearing to New York. Now, normally, her detention would be pretty short. You go in, you have your hearing, they set bail, and you're out until trial. But the prosecutors from the Southern District they're going to try and argue that she is an extreme flight risk, and that she has a very, very strong incentive to flee. And I looked at their detention memo, and it indicates that she's got 3 passports. She's got, of course, vast international connections. She also has over $20 million in liquid funds that she could use to evade justice. So we'll see how that goes. We don't know yet if she's going to get out or if she's on bail or if she'll have to stay. But after how it went with Jeff Epstein, no surprise that already, and I mean right now, the hashtag Maxwell didn't kill herself is already trending on Twitter. According to the unsealed court documents that I've reviewed, and which I'm gonna share with you in just a moment, what the prosecutors are charging Maxwell with is multiple counts related to the sex crimes with minors, and I mean these are girls as young as 14 years old, and also a couple of counts of perjury from a previous court deposition in another case. Related case. Now, if the prosecutors can make all of these counts stick, then Maxwell could serve only up to 35 years in prison. Then again, knowing what she knows and the dirt that she has access to, she could end up just serving a few months and end up dead while on suicide watch, strangled to death under mysterious circumstances that the public will never truly understand or find out the facts about because the guards are asleep and for some reason the security cameras are faulty. You just never know. But the woman has a lot of dirt on a lot of people. So the case is basically this, that the prosecutors are making. Between 1994 to 1997, Ghislaine was running a sex operation for Jeff Epstein. Her job was to recruit these children, teach them how to sexually please Epstein, because, these are kids. And as I've reported in the past, Ghislaine was not content to just bring these kids in for Epstein. She was ravenous herself. She had quite the sexual appetite for these young female juveniles herself. And then the other part of the case, like I said, is that to conceal her abuse and her crimes against these victims, victims like Virginia Roberts Giuffre, Maxwell, who, by the way, Epstein and Maxwell, I won't say what they did, but they tore her insides up so bad she had to be taken to the hospital for internal bleeding. Let me just say that. But anyway, Giuffre is suing Maxwell, has been for years, trying to get her in court. And in the deposition for the Giuffre case, Maxwell perjured herself repeatedly under oath during that 2016 deposition. So that's part of this current prosecution's case. Now, if you've listened to my previous podcast on Epstein, great. You likely already know a lot of details, but if not, go back and listen to those. I mean, that is some great material. I think you'll really love it. Just do a search online for Blackstone Intelligence Report podcasts, and I host them on Spreaker, but they're all over the place. But if you prefer something visual, if you want to review the facts of Ghislaine's history and what she did for Epstein, I recommend that you check out my Twitter feed, because if you go there, twitter.com/Morphonios, that's MORPHONIOS, you'll find some threads on Maxwell and Epstein, where I have posted hundreds and hundreds of factoids and photos and financial documents, just tons and tons of deeply researched material that I've collected on these monsters. So again, that's twitter.com/Morphonios, and I intend to start posting more to those threads as new information on develops in this case. Now, what I'm going to do for the rest of today's episode is I'm just going to simply read straight from the now unsealed indictment. It's about 18 pages. And I'll share that with you, and we'll use that kind of as our starting point for moving forward. And in future episodes, I'm going to share a whole lot more material and go deeper into this with you and explain the case as it goes on. So we're gonna get that started right after this quick Blackstone commercial. Blackstone face masks are high quality. Each reusable mask is handmade by my wife using a double layer of 100% cotton. Inside the mask are 2 layers of a filtration material called non-woven interfacing that significantly reduces particles from passing through the mask. To ensure a proper fit, each mask uses 4 double-stitched ties instead of cheap elastic bands that often break. The masks also have an inner plastic-coated wire over the nose bridge and cheekbones to mold the mask to your face. That reduces the chance of particles from slipping in through loose gaps along the edges. We have 18 styles to choose from. To browse our selection, visit blackstoneintel.com and click on the store button. Our family is using a portion of the sales proceeds to purchase materials to donate as many free masks as we can to hospitals through a program sponsored by Jo-Ann Fabric. The goal is to reach 100 million masks. So you can feel good knowing that your purchase not only helps protect your family while supporting mine, but you're also contributing to help our nation's healthcare workers. So visit blackstoneintel.com and buy a mask for each member of your family today. All right, welcome back. Let's go ahead and jump in here, and I'm just going to share this with you. We'll do some reading here. So this is the United States District Court, Southern District of New York, the USA versus Ghislaine Maxwell, sealed indictment number 20 CR 330. Count 1. Conspiracy to entice minors to travel to engage in illegal sex acts. The grand jury charges. Overview. Number 1. The charges set forth herein stem from the role of Ghislaine Maxwell, the defendant, in the sexual exploitation and abuse of multiple minor girls by Jeffrey Epstein. In particular, from at least in or about 1994 up to and including at least in or about 1997, Maxwell assisted, facilitated, and contributed to Jeffrey Epstein's abuse of minor girls by, among other things, helping Epstein to recruit, groom, and ultimately abuse victims known to Maxwell and Epstein to be under the age of 18. The victims were as young as 14 years old when they were groomed and abused by Maxwell and Epstein, both of whom knew that certain victims were in fact under the age of 18. Number 2. As part of as a part and in furtherance of their scheme to abuse minor victims, Ghislaine Maxwell, the defendant, and Jeffrey Epstein enticed and caused minor victims to travel to Epstein's residences in different states, which Maxwell knew and intended would result in their grooming for and subjection to sexual abuse. Moreover, in an effort to conceal her crimes, Maxwell repeatedly lied when questioned about her conduct, including in relation to some of the minor victims described herein, when providing testimony under oath in 2016. Factual background. Number 3. During the time periods charged in this indictment, Ghislaine Maxwell, the defendant, had a personal and professional relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and was among his closest associates. In particular, between in or about 94 and in or about 97, Maxwell was in an intimate relationship with Epstein and also was paid by Epstein to manage his various properties. Over the course of their relationship, Maxwell and Epstein were photographed together on multiple occasions, including in the image below. Number 4. Beginning in at least 1994, Ghislaine Maxwell, the defendant, enticed and groomed multiple minor girls to engage in sex acts with Jeffrey Epstein through a variety of means and methods, including but not limited to the following. A. Maxwell first attempted to befriend some of Epstein's minor victims prior to their abuse, including by asking the victims about their lives, their schools, and their families. Maxwell and Epstein would spend time building friendships with minor victims by, for example, taking minor victims to the movies or shopping. Some of these outings would involve Maxwell and Epstein spending time together with a minor victim, while some would involve Maxwell or Epstein spending time alone with a minor victim. B. Having developed a rapport with a victim, Maxwell would try to normalize sexual abuse for a minor victim by, among other things, discussing sexual topics, undressing in front of the victim, being present when a minor victim was undressed, and or being present for sex acts involving the minor victim and Epstein. C. Maxwell's presence during minor victims' interactions with Epstein, including interactions where the minor victim was undressed or that involved sex acts with Epstein, helped put the victims at ease because an adult woman was present. For example, in some instances, Maxwell would massage Epstein in front of a minor victim. In other instances, Maxwell encouraged minor victims to provide massages to Epstein, including sexualized massage, during which a minor victim would be fully or partially nude. Many of those massages resulted in Epstein sexually abusing the minor victims. D. In addition, Epstein offered to help some minor victims by paying for travel and or educational opportunities, and Maxwell encouraged certain victims to accept Epstein's assistance. As a result, victims were made to feel indebted and believed that Maxwell and Epstein were trying to help them. E. Through this process, Maxwell and Epstein enticed victims to engage in sexual activity with Epstein. In some instances, Maxwell was present for and participated in the sexual abuse of minor victims. Some such indictments occurred in the context of massages, which developed into sexual encounters. Number 5. Ghislaine Maxwell, the defendant, facilitated Jeffrey Epstein's access to minor victims, knowing that he had a sexual preference for underage girls and that he intended to engage in sexual activity with those victims. Epstein's resulting abuse of minor victims included, among other things, touching a victim's breast, touching a victim's genitals, placing a sex toy such as a vibrator on a victim's genitals, directing a victim to touch Epstein while he masturbated, and directing a victim to touch Epstein's genitals. Maxwell and Epstein's victims. This is number 6. Between approximately in or about 1994 to 1997, Ghislaine Maxwell facilitated Jeffrey Epstein's access to minor victims by, among other things, inducing and enticing and aiding and abetting the inducement and enticement of multiple minor victims. Victims were groomed and or abused at multiple locations, including the following. A. A multi-story private residence on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, New York, owned by Epstein, also known as the New York residence, which is depicted in the following photograph. B. An estate in Palm Beach, Florida, owned by Epstein, known as the Palm Beach residence, which is depicted in the following photograph. C. a ranch in Santa Fe, New Mexico, owned by Epstein, the New Mexico residence, which is depicted in the following photograph. D. Maxwell's personal residence in London, England. Number 7. Among the victims induced or enticed by Ghislaine Maxwell were minor victims identified herein as Minor Victim 1, Minor Victim 2, and Minor Victim 3. In particular, and in another show I'll tell you which ones these are. Even though it's not in the indictment, there's enough information. I'm familiar enough with the case and the victims. Minor victims 1, 2, and 3. In particular, and during time periods relevant to this indictment, Maxwell engaged in the following acts, among others, with respect to minor victims. A. Maxwell met minor victim 1 when minor victim 1 was approximately 14 years old. Maxwell subsequently interacted with minor victim 1 on multiple occasions at Epstein's residences, knowing that minor victim 1 was under the age of 18 at the time. During these interactions, which took place approximately between 1994 and 97, Maxwell groomed minor victim 1 to engage in sexual acts with Epstein through multiple means. First, Maxwell and Epstein attempted to befriend minor victim 1, taking her to the movies and on shopping trips. Maxwell also asked minor victim 1 about school, her classes, her family, and other aspects of her life. Maxwell then sought to normalize inappropriate and abusive conduct, among other things, by undressing in front of minor victim 1 and being present when victim 1 undressed in front of Epstein. Within the first year after Maxwell and Epstein met victim 1, Epstein began sexually abusing victim 1. Maxwell was present for and involved in some of this abuse. In particular, Maxwell involved victim 1 in group sexualized massages of Epstein. During those group sexualized massages, Maxwell and/or minor victim 1 would engage in sex acts with Epstein. Epstein and Maxwell both encouraged victim 1 to travel to Epstein's residences in both New York and Florida. As a result, minor victim 1 was sexually abused by Epstein in both New York and Florida. Victim 1 was enticed to travel across state lines for the purpose of sexual encounters with Epstein, and Maxwell was aware that Epstein engaged in sexual activity with victim 1 after victim 1 traveled to Epstein's properties, including in the context of a sexualized massage. B. Maxwell interacted with victim 2 on at least one occasion in or about 1996 at Epstein's residence in New Mexico, when minor victim 2 was under the age of 18. Minor victim 2 had flown into New Mexico from out of state at Epstein's invitation for the purpose of being groomed for and/or subjected to acts of sexual abuse. Maxwell knew that minor victim 2 was under the age of 18 at the time. While in New Mexico, Maxwell and Epstein took minor victim 2 to a movie, and Maxwell took victim 2 shopping. Maxwell also discussed victim 2's school, classes, and family with victim 2. In New Mexico, Maxwell began her efforts to groom victim 2 for abuse by Epstein by, among other things, providing an unsolicited massage to victim 2, during which victim 2 was topless. Maxwell also encouraged victim 2 to massage Epstein. Maxwell groomed and befriended minor victim 3 in London. This is item C. In London, England, between approximately 94 and 95, including during a period of time in which Maxwell knew that minor victim 3 was under the age of 18. Among other things, Maxwell discussed minor victim 3's life and family with minor victim 3. Maxwell introduced victim 3 to Epstein and arranged for multiple interactions between victim 3 and Epstein. During those interactions, Maxwell encouraged victim 3 to massage Epstein, knowing that Epstein would engage in sex acts with victim 3 during those massages. Minor victim 3 provided Epstein with the requested massages, and during those massages, Epstein sexually abused minor victim 3. Maxwell was aware that Epstein engaged in sexual activity with victim 3 on multiple occasions, including at times when victim 3 was under the age of 18, including in the context of sexualized massage. Maxwell's efforts to conceal her conduct. Number 8. In or around 2016, in the context of a deposition as part of a civil litigation, Ghislaine Maxwell repeatedly provided false and perjurious statements under oath regarding, among other subjects, her role in facilitating the abuse of minor victims by Jeffrey Epstein, including some of the specific events and acts of abuse detailed above. Statutory allegations. Number 9. From at least in or about 1994 up to including in or about 1997, in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere, Ghislaine Maxwell, the defendant, Jeffrey Epstein, and others, known and unknown, willfully and knowingly did combine, conspire, confederate, and agree together, and with each other, to commit an offense against the United States, to wit, enticement in violation of Title 18, U.S. Code, Section 2422. Number 10. It was a part and object of the conspiracy that Ghislaine Maxwell, the defendant, Jeffrey Epstein and others, known and unknown, would and did knowingly persuade, induce, entice, and coerce one and more individuals to travel in interstate and foreign commerce, to engage in sexual activity for which a person can be charged with a criminal offense in violation of Title 18, U.S.C. Section 2422. Overt acts. Number 11. In furtherance of the conspiracy and to effect the illegal object thereof, the following overt acts, among others, were committed in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere. A. Between in or about 1994 and in or about 1997, when minor victim 1 was under the age of 18, Maxwell participated in multiple group sexual encounters with Epstein and minor victim 1 in New York and Florida. B. In or about 96, when victim 1 was under the age of 18, victim 1 was enticed to travel from Florida to New York for purposes of sexually abusing her at the New York residence, in violation of New York Penal Law Section 130.55. C. In or about 1996, when victim 2 was under the age of 18, Maxwell provided victim 2 with an unsolicited massage in New Mexico, during which victim 2 was topless. D. Between in or about 1994 and in or about 1995, when minor victim 3 was under the age of 18, Maxwell encouraged minor victim 3 to provide massages to Epstein in London, England, knowing that Epstein intended to sexually abuse minor 3 during those massages. Title 18, U.S.C. Section 371. That was all under Count 1. Count 2. Enticement of a minor to travel to engage in illegal sex acts. The grand jury further charges, number 12, the allegations contained in paragraphs 1 through 8 of this indictment are repeated and realleged as if fully set forth within. Number 13, from at least in or about 1994 up to and including in or about 1997, in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere, Ghislaine Maxwell knowingly did persuade, induce, entice, and coerce an individual to travel in interstate and foreign commerce to engage in sexual activity for which a person can be charged with a criminal offense, and attempted to do the same and aided and abetted the same, to wit, Maxwell persuaded, induced, enticed, and coerced minor victim 1 to travel from Florida to New York on multiple occasions with the intention that minor victim 1 would engage in one or more sex acts with Jeffrey Epstein, which is a violation of New York Penal Law Section 130.55, Title 18 U.S.C. Sections 2422 and 2. Count number 3. Conspiracy to transport minors with intent to engage in criminal sexual activity. The grand jury further charges. Number 14. The allegations contained in paragraphs 1 through 8 of this indictment are repeated and realleged as if fully set forth within. Number 15. From at least in or about 1994 up to and including in or about 97. In the Southern District of New York and elsewhere, Ghislaine Maxwell, the defendant, Jeffrey Epstein, and others, known and unknown, willfully and knowingly did combine, conspire, confederate, and agree together, and with each other, to commit an offense against the United States, to wit, transportation of minors in violation of Title 18 U.S.C. Section 2423A. Number 16. It was a part and object of the conspiracy that Ghislaine Maxwell, the defendant, Jeff Epstein, and others known and unknown, would and did knowingly transport an individual who had not attained the age of 18 in interstate and foreign commerce, with intent that the individual engage in sexual activity for which a person can be charged with a criminal offense in violation of Title 18 U.S.C. 2423A. Overt acts, number 17. In furtherance of the conspiracy and to effect the illegal object thereof, the following overt acts, among others, were committed in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere. A. Between in or about 94 and in or about 97, when victim 1 was under the age of 18, Maxwell participated in multiple group sexual encounters with Epstein and minor victim 1 in New York and Florida. B. In or about 96, when victim 1 was under 18, victim 1 was enticed to travel from Florida to New York for purposes of sexually abusing her at the New York residence in violation of New York Penal Law Section 130.55. C. In or about 96, when victim 2 was under the age of 18, Maxwell provided victim 2 with an unsolicited massage in New Mexico, during which victim 2 was topless. D. Between 1994 to 1995, when victim 3 was under the age of 18, Maxwell encouraged victim 3 to provide massages to Epstein in London, England, knowing that Epstein intended to sexually abuse victim 3 during those massages. Count number 4, transportation of a minor with intent to engage in criminal sexual activity. The grand jury further alleges, number 18, the allegations contained in paragraphs 1 through 8 are repeated and realleged as if fully set forth within. Number 19, from at least in or about 94 and up to, including in or about 97. In the Southern District of New York and elsewhere, Ghislaine Maxwell knowingly did transport an individual who had not attained the age of 18 in interstate and foreign commerce with the intent that the individual engage in sexual activity for which a person can be charged with a criminal offense, and attempted to do so and aided and abetted the same, to wit, Maxwell arranged for minor victim 1 to be transported from Florida to New York on multiple occasions with the intention that minor victim 1 would engage in one or more sex acts with Jeff Epstein in violation of New York Penal Law, Section 130.55. Count number 5, perjury. The grand jury further charges, number 20. The allegations contained in paragraphs 1 through 8 are repeated and realleged. Number 21. On or about April 22, 2016, in the Southern District of New York, Ghislaine Maxwell, having taken an oath to testify truthfully in a deposition in connection with a case then pending before the United States District Court for the Southern District of New York under docket number 15 Civ 7344, knowingly made false material declarations, to wit, Maxwell gave the following underlined false testimony. Question: did Jeffrey Epstein have a scheme to recruit underage girls for sexual massages, if you know? Answer: I don't know what you're talking about. Question: list all the people under the age of 18 that you interacted with at any of Jeffrey's properties. Answer: I'm not aware of anybody that I interacted with other than obviously the plaintiff, who was 17 at this point. Count number 6, perjury. The grand jury further charges, number 22, allegations in paragraphs 1 through 8 are repeated and realleged. Number 23, on or about July 22, 2016, in the Southern District of New York, Ghislaine Maxwell, the defendant, having taken an oath to testify truthfully in a deposition in connection with a case then pending before the United States District Court for the Southern District of New York, under docket number 15 CIV 7344, knowingly made false material declarations. To wit, Maxwell gave the following underlined false testimony. Question: were you aware of the presence of sex toys or devices used in sexual activities in Mr. Epstein's Palm Beach house? Answer: no, not that I recall. Question: do you know whether Mr. Epstein possessed sex toys or devices used in sexual activities? Answer: no. Question: other than yourself and the blonde and brunette that you have identified as having been involved in three-way sexual activities, with whom did Mr. Epstein have sexual activities? Answer: I wasn't aware that he was having sexual activities with anyone when I was with him other than myself. Question: I want to be sure that I'm clear. Is it your testimony that in the 1990s and 2000s, you were not aware that Mr. Epstein was having sexual activities with anyone other than yourself, and the blonde and brunette and those few occasions when they were involved with you? Answer: that is my testimony. That is correct. Question: is your testimony that you've never given anybody a massage? Answer: I have not given anyone a massage. Question: you never gave Mr. Epstein a massage? Is that your testimony? Answer: that is my testimony. Question: you never gave minor victim 2 a massage? Is your testimony? Answer: I never gave minor victim 2 a massage. And that is the end of it. It is signed by Audrey Strauss, the acting United States attorney. And here's just the cover there. Now, there's so much that I could do to flesh this out. And if it seems like, wow, they're not really giving a whole lot of the dirt in this, trust me, it'll be in the case. Much of this is already out there. And I've covered a lot of it in my previous live streams. Live streams, but also in my podcasts. So we'll discuss it. Just because this show is running long, I want to go ahead and kind of start to wrap it up. So that's going to be it for today's episode. Let me tell you something. If I was Alan Dershowitz, I would be shaking in my boots right now. If I was Alan Dershowitz, who is a nudist, by the way, and who lied in one television interview saying that he never had a massage. I never had a massage at Jeff Epstein's. And the next day, he had to correct himself and say, okay, yeah, I did have a massage at Epstein's. But it was an old Russian woman, and I didn't even enjoy it. So Alan Dershowitz, my friend, you are next, my brother. You are next. Justice is coming for you too, good sir. Crazy days, isn't it? Well, in my next show, we are going to go deeper into all of this stuff. We're going to go ahead and look at some of the details that stem from this indictment. We're going to start talking again about this sordid underworld that Epstein and Maxwell lived in, that's brimming with spies and lies and high-profile blackmail operations. So until next time, stay safe out there, Team Blackstone. Keep offering those red pills to people who might be ready to begin waking up from the cozy mirage of the Matrix by sharing Blackstone reports with your friends, family, and anyone else crazy enough to listen. That's it for today. For Blackstone Intelligence, I'm Jake Morphonios.
If you appreciate hard-hitting investigative journalism that you won't get from the mainstream media, then please support Jake's research and analysis at patreon.com/endtimesnewsreport, paypal.me/endtimesnewsreport, or send a check or money order to Jake Morphonios, P.O. Box 1333, Kernersville, North Carolina 27285.